Okay, so maybe y'all think y'all are living on a prayer, but you're not. So don't worry, here we go. Absolute value equations. Alright, so we want you to be able to evaluate expressions involving absolute value and be able to solve absolute value equations. So let's look at the first thing, shall we? So again, let's first off establish what's absolute value. Let's make sure y'all understand the definition. Absolute value is the number, or is the distance of a number from zero. Plain and simple. That's the reason why we express it as that absolute value is always positive, because distance is always positive. So it doesn't matter what the number is, I mean, it should become positive. So that's why the absolute value of -4 is 4. And the absolute value of 4 is still 4, because they are both 4 units from 0. Ha, missed the bell. Anyways, okay, so you can see there are 4 units from 0. So that's why, I mean, so really when we're saying this answer is 4, the absolute value of -4 is 4 and the absolute value of 4 is 4, is because we're saying that they are 4 units away from 0. Anyways, so let's look at an expression, shall we? I think we shall. Why don't we, sir? So let's evaluate. So this is one, like it would say, something like evaluate an expression, whatever it may say. I'm going to make this go a little faster. And so I've got 8.4 minus 2n minus 5 if n is equal to -7. So I'm going to plug this in, put this, oh, sorry, 7.5. I'm going to plug in the 7.5, see what I get for an answer. Now notice here, what I'm doing here is I'm working these out. So I said, I'm treating that inside that absolute value symbol, bracket, or symbols, that as a problem. So I'm working all that out. Notice how I worked my way down to the final thing, and then the absolute value of -20 is going to be 20. Notice that. Then I start worrying about the rest of the stuff that's outside. Now keep in mind here, this right here is straight 20. This minus went straight down. That's not to say that there was a negative. I said the answer is -20, and saying I brought down the minus, the answer of a -20 is positive, because normally 2 negatives would become positive. So keep that in mind. Is this something you can type in a calculator? You should be able to, but we will find that out later. Alright, so next one. Here's another example. X is equal to -2, and you're going to see me do some problems here. So I put the -2 in place of the x, do my work, finally get -5. The absolute value of -5 is 5, so 5 minus 3.5 is 1.5. Or you can put 3/2, or you can put 1.5. Anything y'all's little heart's desire. Okay, so next part. Alright, so solving an absolute value equation. Here's where things get supposedly a little bit tricky. The key here is to remember that we're saying this x plus 12, the absolute value of that was equal to 9 units. 9 distance. So there was a number that was 9 units away from 0. Well, what numbers are 9 units away from 0? There is 9, and there is -9. So every single time you do an absolute value equation you want to solve, first off, get rid of everything outside of the absolute value and get the absolute value by itself, like this is right here. Then set it equal to 9 and -9, or positive and negative version of it. Okay? Then you can solve. Notice the steps would be exactly the same. You're going to get 2 different answers. And in theory, you should check that both those answers will give you like an equal answer. For example, putting in -21 in place of the x, take the absolute -21 plus 12 is -9. The absolute value of -9 is 9. Put in -3 with the 12, the x, and you'll get -3 plus 12 is +9. The absolute value of +9 is 9. So either way, you would still get an answer of 9. Okay, so always make sure you check your work, and you'll see why in a little bit later. Put them in place of the x and check your work to make sure both numbers from here would give you that answer that it may be. So here's another example. Notice here again, I'm going to do +8, -8. Ooh, sir, this is hard. No, it's not. You got it. That's it. That's all. There you go. And that's it. So, I mean, I subtracted 5, but notice, again, I said y plus 5 was equal to 8, y plus 5 was equal to -8. And then the opposite of a plus 5 is to subtract, so I subtracted both equations. Notice here I'm getting 2 answers. Yes, I'm putting them in order from least to greatest, but I wouldn't be picky if you put it in order, whichever order you put it in. All right, so here's something to make sure of. If an answer is not possible because absolute values must always equal to 0 or a positive number, there is no solution, which is called an empty set. It's symbolized by like a 0 with a line through it, or an O with a line through it. Okay, so when we want to say no solution, that's the symbol I want to use. This symbol right here. Okay, no more NS. Give me a symbol. For example, 3x minus 2 plus 8 equals 1. Now notice here, I'm supposed to, before I can solve, or the first step to solving this is get rid of everything outside of the absolute value symbol. I'm trying to get the absolute value symbol by itself on the left side. So this plus 8 I need to get rid of. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. You cannot work anything into this absolute value equation. You have to get everything away from it. So that means even if there's a multiplying, you're going to have to divide. Okay, so 1 minus 8 is negative 7. Okay, is it possible for a absolute value to equal to a negative number? No. There is no way I can put a number in here, multiply by 3 and subtract 2, then take the absolute value and get a negative answer, because that's not possible. So we would say that's the null set, no solution, empty set. Okay, so there's your answer, no solution. Another example. Okay, same thing. I'm going to divide by negative 2 because I want the absolute value by itself. So now absolute value of 3a is by itself, divided by 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. Again, not possible, no solution. No solution for you. Alright, so let's talk about one more problem here. Okay, so here we go, x plus 10. Now notice here, the absolute value of x plus 10 is by itself. So I'm going to say x plus 10 is equal to 4x minus 8. So notice, you have one where you do it exactly the same. Nothing changes except you got rid of the absolute value symbols. Then you're going to have a second problem, or a second equation, where you will say, supposedly, change the sign of everything. So notice here, I'm putting negative parentheses 4x minus 8. So I've got 4x minus 8, but I don't want to say I'm going to change it. And when you change it, that will change the symbol, the signs of everything inside that parentheses. First one, I'm ready to go ahead, and on the one on the left, I'm ready to go ahead and say solve, going through our normal steps. Move the 4x over to the other side. Move variables to the left, numbers to the right, then divide. The second one, I need to distribute that negative first. So notice that becomes negative 4x plus 8, because negative times a negative, it becomes a positive. And then I'm going to move the x over to the other side. Variables to the left, numbers to the right. Minus 10, minus 10. I get 5x equals negative 2. Divide, and I get negative 2/5. Okay, so both of those are my answers. So the question then becomes, are they? You need to check your work. So here we go back, and we're going to put 6 and negative 2/5 in place of the x. So notice here how I'm working this out. And on the one that was 6, I get the same answer on both sides. Left and right, I get the answer of 16. So that works. Now look at the one on the right. I'm going to have the absolute value of negative, or 9 3/5 minus 9 3. By the way, I copied this from the book. So you kind of see how that works. But these two are not the same. One's positive, one's negative, which is not the same, which means then that negative 2/5 didn't work. It's what's called an extraneous solution, which means we don't care about it. So cross it out. It's gone. Boom. And there you go. So the only answer there that worked, because I checked my work, is 6. So keep in mind that next week, or not next week, but I will check, like when we take your first quiz or test on this, I will check to make sure, or I'll have problems that say like maybe solve, and then another problem that says show me your checked answer, which is then what is the final solution? You know, is it both numbers? Is it only one number? You know, that type of thing. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. Anyways, I might do another video with this to add on to it, but this pretty much covers everything. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I do hope y'all are listening to this, and thank you so much for your time and effort. All right, I really appreciate it. Y'all take care.